Hello Tech Mafians, welcome to my channel. So in today's episode of Code with YouTube, I'm going to share the easiest way you can connect your Mongo database atlas to your front end. And the framework what we'll be working on today is going to be the Next.js. A lot of people have issues connecting their database to the Next.js application. And then some people have been asking questions on how to stop the issue of trying to call the Mongo database connection in each of the files you are working on. So I'm here to resolve it by making this video. So this video we're going to be using an instrumentation file. So I'll create an instrumentation file where I will call the connect mongo database. That's after creating it, so that each time we run a node package manager, our mongo database will be connected straight up, and then we'll continue with our file without having to be calling connect mongodb in all the files that we're working on. So I urge you to please subscribe to this channel and like this video while we proceed. Alright, so to begin, simply head over to this website displayed on this tab. This is mongodatabase.com/atlas. So when you're on this website, the first thing you have to do is to create an account. But if you already have an account, simply click here to sign in. So when you click to sign in, after signing in, it should bring you to this page. So this is the first page you're going to see after your authentication. So the first thing you're going to do in this page is that you're going over to this drop down here that is directly under your organization. So when you click on this drop down, it will show you the list of projects you've worked on. That's if you have worked on any project before. So if not, it will just show you create a new project. For me, I've worked on a lot of projects, so I'm going to scroll down to see this tab. So I'm going to click to create a new project. So creating a new project, the first thing I have to do is that I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it YouTube Learning. Let's leave it that simple. Then I'll click on the next button. So when I click on the next button, I'll just make sure that it is having this email address as the project owner, and then I'll click to create the account, the project. Okay, after creating the project, the next thing you have to do is that you're going to create a cluster. Clusters are just like your database, clusters of database hosted in different regions. So I'm going to click here to create a cluster. So for me to create my clusters, I have to choose how I want to deploy my clusters. So there are many paid plans here, and there's also a free plan. So I'm going for the free plan. So when I click on the free plan, I will scroll down and choose a name for my cluster. So you can give this any name of choice. So I'm still going to call it YouTube Learning, or I'll just call it YouTube Cluster. So I'm going to leave everything the way it is then and click to create deployment. Now my clusters has been successfully created. So the next thing I'm going to do after creating my clusters is that I'm going to create a database user. The database user is just like a username and a password which you will add to the connection string that we'll be getting in the next line of code. So I'm going to click here. So if I want to change the name of the database user, I'll change it here. So I'm going to leave it like this, and then I'm going to leave it the same way with the same password they generated for us. So the thing is that I'm going to copy the password, and then I'm going to save it. So making sure that I have chosen my password and my username, I'll just click to create my database user. So now after all this, I'll now either click to proceed to connection, or first of all I'll set up my database. But how I used to do it is that I normally set up my database first, because I might forget it and then I'll be having issues with which API that connects to the database or not. So I'm going to close this down here and then come over to this tab here that they wrote network access. I'm going to click on network access to give access to the networks that will have access to the database. So as you can see now, it's currently, I'm the only one that is currently allowed to use this database. So if I click on this add IP address, I will now add any IP address that can use this. So it's left for me to choose who I want to him or her to have access to this database. But for now, since I'm still on development, I'll just click to allow access from anywhere. So when I click to allow access from anywhere, it will give me this list indicating that everybody have access to this database. So I'm going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to click to confirm. Then I'll receive an email on the email I used to sign up, showing me that everybody have access to my database, but we have nothing to worry about since we are still going to do authentications. So after doing all the setups that are necessary here, I will make sure that the status is set to active. As you can see here, that means that every IP address have access to this database. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. So I'll come over to the cluster that I created before, then I'll come over here and click to connect this cluster. So this is where we're going to be getting the connection string that we'll be using to connect to our front end. So now there are different ways you can connect, as you can see and indicated here. You may choose to use a driver or a compass or shell or through VS Code, but my preferred way of connecting this is through the driver. So when I click on the driver, I'll come over here and then I'm going to copy this connection string here. So when I copy this connection string here, then I'll now move straight to my VS Code. Okay, so this is my VS Code, and as you can see here, this is the password that I copied when I was creating the database. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is that I'll go to this .env file, and then I'm going to create a variable. So this first variable I'm going to create is the one that will store the connection string that I just copied last time. So I'm going to call it next MongoDB URI, and then I'm going to set it to this string, which is equivalent to what I just copied lastly in the database when I was creating it. Now, if you can see here, you can see that here it requires that we have to enter the password which we initially copied. So I'm going to come over here and copy that password that I got that time, and then replace this with the password. So after creating this connection URI, so I'm also going to create another variable for the database name. So I'm going to call this one YouTube video. Let's just leave it this simple. So I'm going to save this. Then I'll make sure that this .env file is captured in git ignore. So this is the only possible way to make sure that our database is safe, that attackers will not see our connection string once we publish it to the GitHub. So make sure you add it to the git ignore. So after that, the next thing I'm going to be doing right now is that I'm going to create a folder. So inside the app folder, I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call it libs. So inside the libs, I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it MongoDB. Now, inside this mongodb.js, the way we're going to be connecting this database is that we're going to be using mongoose. So I'm going to first of all create a terminal and then install mongoose, which we'll be needing for the connection. So I'm going to run npm install mongoose. So now that we've successfully installed our mongoose, we're going to first of all import the mongoose from mongoose. So after installing mongoose from mongoose, so I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call this one connect mongodb. So I'm going to set it equal to process.env, because we're trying to fetch the data that we saved in the environmental variable. That's why we say process.env. Then I'll copy this name, because that's what we want to import here. Mongo database name dot this. So we just said const Mongo database name is process.env dot the name, since we want to assign the name into this variable. So I'm going to save it. Then I'll create another variable. So I'm creating another variable for MongoDB URI. So we're going to repeat the same process by saying process.env, because we want to go to the environmental variable and then get this that we just created. So that's what we just said is process.env dot the variable that we just created. So now that we've created this constant, we are going to check if they really exist. So for us to do that check, we're going to say if there is no MongoDB name. So the first check we made there is that we are going to check if this constant that we actually created really exists. So we just said if it does not exist, we should throw new error, and then the message for the error should be Mongo database not found. So I'm going to repeat the same process for the URI. So I'm going to copy this right away, and then I'm pasting it here. Then I'll change this one, and then I'll call this one MongoDB URI. So I'm checking for the second one. I say if it does not exist, we should throw a new error that will say MongoDB. Then I'm going to add URI here. So that will say MongoDB URI not found. Now, in a situation where they actually exist, we'll have to proceed to the next line of code that I'm going to write now. So I'm going to say async function, and then the name of the function will be connect MongoDB. So we're not going to be accepting any params in this function. So we're going to add the code into our try and catch block. So in the try section, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to say await mongoose dot connect. So when we say await mongoose dot connect, the first parameter we're going to be passing is going to be the MongoDB URI. Then the second parameter we're going to be passing is going to be an object, and that object is going to be our DB name, which is database name, and then we're going to assign it to database name that we just created here. So we're going to say if this is successful, we should just log it into the console. So the message should be connected successfully. Now, but a situation whereby we have an error, for now, let's just simply log it into the console. So before we conclude, we're going to export the function so that we can access it in the instrumentation file. So this is the only code you need here in the Mongo database, that is to write a connection to the Mongo database using the mongoose. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to the root folder here. So I'm going to create an instrumentation file. So I'm going to click to create a new file, and then I'm going to call it instrumentation.typescript. So inside the instrumentation file, I'm going to import. So inside the instrumentation file, I'm going to import the function that I just created here. So we're going to create a normal function called register. Then inside this function now, then we're going to call the connect MongoDB. So what happens here is that each time we start up our development server, this function will run automatically and connect straight to our database, so that we won't be needing to call this created function into each of the file that we're working on. So after doing this, the last thing I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to the next.config.js. So right under this curly braces, I'm going to set my experimental files, and then I'm going to set it. And so now that we're done, let's check out to know what we really did. So for us to proceed, and first of all, I'm going to kill this server. Then I will rerun it again to see if we can get a message showing that our database has been successfully connected. So I'm going to run npm run dev. Okay, so as you can see in our console that our database has been successfully connected. So that is the easiest way you can connect your Mongo database atlas to your Next.js application. Please, I urge you to subscribe to this channel and like this video for more content. Thanks for watching.